A year of high consequence, day 13, part two. And I'm just going to keep going and try to calm down a little bit, see what I missed that I can wrap up, because I want to wrap it up today, maybe in this video. I know that I'm in a place of high certainty now, because just let me refer to that before I forget again. I will post this photo taken during the eclipse where there was this manifestation of an 11 segmented thing ending in an emoji, a pirate 50s rock star emoji kind of thing. And I'll show it. And it means something to me because I designed a UFO welcoming station involving 11 lights and a gap, intending the aliens or whomever. And we were going to do it at night with a sculpture and, all dress up like aliens so that they could show up and they wouldn't blow their cover. Because I had a sunrise celebration, which was the sculpture was the 11 poles and it was the gate was the 12th. Like the clock is 12. So thinking of it as a universal symbol of welcoming is you leave a gap at the 12th. And you will see in the post on Facebook, because this goes to YouTube, just to put it on the record. I'm not trying to reach anybody, which we already have our beginning crew, and it's going to happen on the ground around here and around trying to network small businesses to people's needs. There's a lot of small construction, and there's a lot of big construction. And the idea is, um, the main theme of not pointing fingers and the main theme that the left and right have high values that can actually come together was I called it back in the Green Party days when I got dragged into being Green Party chair for a couple of years before I quit because the hardcore PC were far left. And they kind of resented my whole on the ground approach, I guess. And I was talking to right across the board. We had when I was co-chair, I was talking to Republicans and military, and we had 38% of people voting Green would have voted Republican. And the idea that we could have done a grassroots green movement based on libertarian green, like we're going to espouse how we become green. Now, that means in business, you don't have a government. That's an extra layer of like potential corruptibility. It's kind of obvious. But anyway, the things have gotten so toxic in the and almost cartoon like. I'm going to say not almost, completely cartoon like. And people's uh, inability to see Donald Trump as a human being doing an amazing thing just in the sense of stepping up as a citizen and moving this huge bureaucracy and hierarchy. Nobody's ever gotten to be president in the modern world without having to go through layers of huge bureaucracies and passing muster with all these dark committees that we have no accountability for. And now people aren't he's not accountable to anybody. Well, at least we can see who he is. I'm going to leave it there. But I think there's some interesting moves happening. But the point is, politics, we have 3 years, I think. I mean, people want to think about the midterms. Like, look, I want to appeal to right wing business. I want to appeal to business people who tend to be right wing because it's a question of please leave us alone. We're trying to get this thing to make it work. The more bureaucracies you got, you can say, hey, as a human being, can we start trying to think of each other as, you know, as I say, all the values of the left, equality of resources and different things. And you want to treat people right and not be oppressive, yeah, and stop slave labor, all that. But you want to make it possible. And you do that in businesses with the right motivation. Now, as I say in the previous one, I've been because I wasn't ready to start my own business. And by my own business, it's probably more of a networking aspect. I want to keep making art and probably be the one talking about things and as much as possible take things that are already out there and we can start with the organizing thing that isn't the business. It was just a directory of all the like-minded organizations, intentional communities, resource-based farm. There is no resource. Regenerative farming, the co-ops. Put all those in the directory and start talking about how they could begin starting to work together. And that's kind of a political thing. I could do that, all that talking, but I know that the way to do this is to start our own business. We got to start a business that does that as its core premise. Because otherwise, preaching to businesses that had to start, that started to as a for-profit, just taking one little niche and taking home the money. The whole community-based concept of how you do that involves contextualizing your production towards the needs of the people you're working with, and having an economy that's closer to needs and true. I mean, it doesn't have to be Spartan. It could be needs of people wanting to expand their horizons. I say a lot of things that could be free should be free. People making careers out of things that could be free. Well, we can loosen up our sense of who we are. This is another idea of community based. Start thinking of yourselves as members of communities instead of individual professions, and then you loosen up what you're willing to do as far as your chosen career profession thing. I'm looking at the time. Um, you leave that as a thing where it's like ongoing forever education. Like what I'm doing with guitar, I'm not trying to make any money with it. I'm doing my own, like, what the hell are you doing on the guitar? Yeah, I don't know. Open tunings and trying to hear it. And it's hopefully at least fresh. I know the guitar vibrates a lot. Uh, Fix that up. And I'm just going to pump that out. I don't need to make any money on it. Now, I can make money on my art. I've sold all my art before. But I think things like art are a lot cheaper than they need to be. But, get people to feel better, and then everybody's more productive, and there's less need to, and money needs to be less. I was going to say, with money, people are all trying to suggest, because it's going to break down, make some gold, buy gold. Yeah, but still got to, you can't eat gold. So again, there's fear mongers, and then there's hope mongers. The 5D people is going to be all right. Well, yeah, there's incredible energies that I'm feeling right now as clarity and focus. And others are feeling like we can't take the old world anymore. Whatever. Yeah, that's all real energies. You don't have to imagine it as spiritual. It's a fallout of a society that's reached its limits of certain things. You have so much material wealth, but people have lost the sense of who they are and what it means. As if that weren't a real thing, whether you wanted to make it a transcendental spiritual thing, whether from the Buddhist or Jehovah side. It's real when you're missing your community and you don't know where you're getting your food from. That's pure materialism. But how you deal with your neighbors, that's pure Christian and Buddhism. How you deal with your own personal consciousness, that's Buddhism. Put it all in one place. Stop pointing fingers. Now, people don't understand the Christians. If you're a Buddhist, it's like, too bad, it's real. Whether or not it's from the sky, there's essentially what people are calling toxic, but focused masculine energy has got us here. That's what this society represents. And we're going to have it be healing, or it's going to kill us. So that means the same forces that are taking all these resources and transforming them into like what we want instead of what was already there. That's like focused masculine intentionality, overriding some of the feminine, what was already there, ecology. Well, it's got a balance at this point. And it can, and it's a good thing if we do it right. Enhancement of the natural environment, custodians, but we've taken it past that. We've gone to a place where we're trying to let people find their higher selves. And that's, you don't have to do that. Again, you can be pure materialist about it. And I'm saying it's all true. I've seen enough visioning. And yeah, what I mentioned, show that that's like my own person. I didn't finish that story. On the eclipse, she took that photo, the 11 segments, and that emoji at the end. It's so funny, and it's like a personal message to me from whatever the hell that was, which was something that caught on camera. We definitely did, there was no time. She caught that. Said, "Mike, come out to watch the eclipse," and she didn't even realize she had that. And we saw it immediately within seconds. You don't have to believe me. It's not for you guys anyway. Nobody knows what that means. But even Stephen Greer, who's my age exactly, and more or less had his connection to the one mind when he had a near death experience, while I had the same different connection by meditating for a week and fasting for a week. So I was more conscious, but I didn't have it. It wasn't as supernatural. I had a vision of how a Sophia emerged, and also a series of masculine entities, among which was this Jehovah, who took steps to ended up kind of in a primal surge of energy The Big Bang was when they were both of them in the same space. He was more conscious about it, and she was more feeling it. She was there first as an appreciation energy, but not something that could. The cosmos didn't happen because there was a bored God. It happened because there was a really lonely, scared, feminine God that had no idea what was next. And some of the next energy, some of that fear created some new ripples, something along those lines. I have it more precise. But it allows for Jehovah energy to be real, for the idea that we're going to have a thing that actually uh, has impact over many civilizations. And the idea that the Christian judgment could be cosmos wide, involve other ETs and such. Well, my point was that even Stephen Greer, he's got a thing I posted. They have a Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind where they're reaching out to these guys and they're having them contact them back. But he's still looking at these UFOs miles away, where I had one that was like 3 feet across in essentially my own yard, giving me a wink and a nod to exactly how I was trying to reach out to them. I literally had a design called UFO Welcome Station with 11 lights and a gap, and they were supposed to be in the gap. So yeah, the 1 through 12, the clock. So I figured as close as I come to a natural thing. And you look at that photo and tell me that's not crazy. So I don't care. Somebody wants to follow up. It doesn't mean anything to anybody else. But to me, it confirms a lot of what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is that it makes sense, first of all, that if we take the best of who we are, it turns into a company that does the right thing and knows how to use things intelligently. You don't have to do advertising anymore. Community-based businesses that suggest that you're going to be part owner of what you start out as, you buy the product, but you like it as much, then be part owner of it. How does that work? We have different ways of working that out because our whole logic is to not be overproducing, to end up, this is where we could put in automation. AI could be used to more the idea of using AI for creative purposes, only if you need to sell your art in the context of not having it be genuine. The whole point of art is not to sell it, but to make it and understand it and feel it. Otherwise, it's shallow, and I can see right through AI art. I almost welcome the challenge. It doesn't understand the oblique and different aspects of non sequitur and other things that make it fun. The AI is all the rest. It's just us being predictable. It's, think of it as a separate, more intelligent being. It's our culture, and we're the front. We're the vanguard. Humans are the vanguard of intelligence, not AI. Anyway, that's all. Whatever. It can really help handle some of this complexity. I got nothing against AI being used intelligently, and I think it needs to happen. It could happen in demonstrating how we can, in fact, create a local resource base, even though it comes from a million different little farms. And you do that quick, and you have somebody do that as a company, as a business. Nobody's making a profit, but everybody's getting fed. We got something to do, and automate some of it, or you get college students to put in some time because they need to do a workout, and you have social events, and you help people make art. And while we're doing this in Tallahassee, you can buy some of our art in China because they're still doing that. So it'll be a moment while we have, if we do this right, Tallahassee, and anybody else that wants to pick up on this, a community-based economy logic is cooperative. It's basically a network, cooperative network versus top-down hierarchy. But the idea is not to overcome the hierarchy, but to contextualize it. And you have ad hocracies, which are more about the ideas. It comes up around different tasks and then dissolves back. So nobody's permanently the head of anything. But you go to if you have a crisis of whatever, you go to the chief whateverness guy who knows. There's a place in New Mexico that runs its government that way, but it's small enough that there's not anything usually happening. And then whenever something happens, that's when there's officials. Otherwise, there's no government. Well, that kind of makes sense. Can you run a whole world like that? No, probably not. But you keep it more relaxed and flexible. And the same thing with money and profits. People belong to communities. Instead of thinking of themselves as production units or consumption units, you're a community member. And then that's the whole point. Community is about its members, right? As well. You have to keep that in balance. anything that becomes the members give up their uh, libertarian sovereignty to the somehow identity of the community, that's a community that's become oppressive. And right now we have the government doing that. It's becoming oppressive. It's the you don't have to go to fascism. Democracy has become a fascism. You don't have to go to dictatorship. I'm saying we have democratic fascism, rule of like the misinformed majority. But we don't have to do that because we all have intrinsically much more sense than that. But we're going to take it to where it happens on the ground. And I have had vision that this is a thing that needs to happen. There's certainty. There's vision from the on high and the transdimensional. It's really happening. So a lot of it's literal, but get grounded on what you can do personally.